What's up, guys? How's it going? Anonymous, Moo Juice, Andrew, Sports Zone, and I gotta try to say that. Noah, what's up, man? Dave, Vacation, Ondo Pancho. How you guys doing? All right. Well, the holiday is over, so hopefully things get back to normal. Because yesterday was a really boring day for trading. But yeah, let's go over it. So yesterday we're talking about the possibility of an SFP, and then shortly after a potential change of character occurrence here that could bring price down, and we can start targeting the value area low. We got the SFP right here. There's a couple of opportunities actually. When the price action came up, and we grabbed the liquidity here, and some people might have jumped in on this, seeing it close back inside the local range, and think of possibility of shorting that as well. If your stop loss was tight to this, then you might have gotten stopped out when the second SFP opportunity occurred. But yeah, the local SFPs are always the ones that are easier to trust, rather than the ones that are taking older liquidity, because it's basically knocking people out of the game the first time around and then using the newly added liquidity as a tool to drive the price down. It was tough to trust this one anyways, because it was a front run to a 300 Bitcoin sell wall that we saw in the order books. But the second time around, we tapped it, mitigated it, and then the price dropped pretty harsh afterwards. Then we had that break. It had a pullback here. It could have been stuffed out. And then there was another opportunity during this break of structure continuation. But we didn't really make it past the point of control. We almost tapped the value area low, which is roughly where we were targeting. And then it ended up reversing. We lost the momentum. And then now this is where we are, hovering above the value area high again. But since we've had this acceptance into the value area, we could actually update the value area from where it currently is to the newly formed price action to here, where now we're inside of more of a macro value area, so we can include the whole thing. All right, so now we are bouncing around a little bit more developed point of control than we had before. Like before, we pretty much had a relatively weak point of control. Update that. Can update this, and can update this. Can delete this noise now. We don't need that anymore. Let's check on that sell wall. I bet it's not there anymore. We'll find out. Can you review where to find the sell wall again? Yeah, we're doing that right now. All right, so we have a couple sell walls now. Yesterday, there wasn't very much confidence in any sell locations or any confidence in buy locations. It was like 300 Bitcoin on both sides. But now, today, we've got... Oh, dude, there's like barely any volume going on right now. What's going on? Oh, this is futures. I mean spot, sorry. Let's go to futures. Yeah, we got a wall at 109,990. So a slight undercut to a psychological level of 110,000. So there's a $10 undercut to that for the amount of 440 Bitcoin. 2,100 Bitcoin needs to be sold before we get there, but there's an area of potential confluence here. So 109,990. So we'd mark that on our chart. So 109. Oops, there we go. Right here, right along the value area high, there are some sellers waiting. And how much was it again? It was okay, it's about just under 500 Bitcoin. Yeah, so we'll put is about 420. All right, so 420 Bitcoin ready to be sold right here at the value high. And slightly under a 30-minute order block. So there could be some residual orders here as well. Let's see. That seems to be the main key zone. Honestly, it's building. Like the sell wall is getting bigger. Yeah, now it's over 500. Yeah, so the sell wall is getting bigger. And we can see locally the price actions potentially forming a head and shoulders. Let's see if that confirms. But yeah, right now, structurally, it looks like this is causing impact for people to lose confidence. But we'll see if we can go up and grab it. If not, we can use that sell wall as confluence for our short. For the 15-minute, let's go to 5 for a second. So here we'll have our change of character occurrence. If we break below like this wick, might as well mark the wick actually. All right, so at 109.459, we confirm that the head and shoulder structure, we get a rejection off the value high, we get a rejection, an undercut rejection to the sell wall. Sell walls like this are usually created by market makers. It's not too big of a one, but let's see. It keeps getting bigger. So now it's at like, yeah, it's above 600. Or sorry, close to 600 now. So yeah, the trade participants that are waking up are seeing a sell wall and they're kind of like adding to it. That's what it looks like, because the sell wall is building slowly. It's not like it's building all at once like a market maker would normally do. We'll see what happens. I think that we could very possibly test it. But if we get a reaction to the sell wall like the same way we did last time, then we got to prepare for a potential higher volume move. We zoom out and we look at the value area data. Like right now we're kind of combating this little key area of interest, right? And the sell wall is pretty much above that key area of interest. And if we lose this zone and we have price acceptance below this value, this head and shoulders, we have a volume gap that should provide a fast-paced move down this little valley or this volume gap here until we hit this volume shelf. So around 109,000 right here, where we found all this support, or sorry, resistance here. Resistance, support, some consolidation here. So we're likely, if this does confirm, if we do get that move, then we should get some fast-paced distance away from our entry down to at least here. And then we would hope for continuations down to the value area low. So that's kind of what I'm preparing for right now based on what we've got for the market conditions for Bitcoin. Kind of more short bias again. Yeah. All right, so that's what I'll be preparing for. Let's see if that plays out. We'll just wait for it to confirm. We can't just jump in because you want it to. But let's see. Position-wise, I prefer to be preparing. If this was placed up here, I'd feel a lot more better about it. but it's not up to us. We'll see if we get that. The value area is the distance between the value area high and the value area low is pretty far, so we should have decent R&R when it does confirm, or if it does confirm. If we instead break above this, then it's just going to reward us with a potential better R&R scenario for a short. So I wouldn't get upset if it doesn't confirm, because it just means that you might get a better opportunity. We can pull a trend line from here to here. This is the pace of the buyers. And once this breaks, we know that the pace of the buyers are have shifted and the sellers are starting to take over. Okay. So that's Bitcoin. I hope that helps you out. Oh my God, is this the real Kajismar? Yeah. Oh man. Okay, let's go through the chat here. Vacations at work. That sucks, man. Okay, so we got some requests already to look at some stuff. That's where, okay, DP said he jumped in too. Luckily, his stop loss had breathing room. He took profit very low. Nice job, man. Nice. Okay. All right, so nothing, no other crazy questions, just TA request, eh? So let's go to the first request. We want to go over WCT, Sports Zone's request. Before we dive into other assets, I want to set a pre-alarm just for when price action taps this location. So we're looking at Bitcoin and not missing out on anything. I want to make sure I'm logged into my Blowfin account, because that's a big bummer when you got everything prepared and then realize you're not logged into your exchange. Okay. Just typing in security stuff. There we go. All right, I'm logged in. And the first thing I do as soon as I log in and go to the futures menu is make sure I have market clicked, not limit. Because sometimes you're in the zone and you're like typing stuff in, and then all of a sudden you find out you're typing in a limit order, and you go to press enter, and then as a limit order placed for you instead of what you were planning on doing. Maybe I'm the only person that does that to himself. But yeah. Okay, let's go back to the chat. All right, WTC. All right, let's get this alarm set really quick. There we go. Create. All right, alarm set. So what is WTC? I forgot. Wallet Connect. Okay, I don't think I've ever done TA on this before. All right, let's zoom out on the daily, because I'm pretty sure I never did TA on this. Yeah. There's no dinosaur on the Binance chart. Let's see if we can find it on OKX. A little bit more data, but not the same. Bybit? No. KuCoin. All right, looks like we're going to Binance. So let's say young to the centralized space at least. We got uptrending momentum here. That's been holding it up for about 22 days or so. Zoom in on the lower time frames. Down to the hourly. Approaching like new all-time highs on this chart. there's not very much I could do for you with this one. So the like what I could say is like we have this uptrending daily momentum right here, which has become a point of interest for buyers, right? It's been uptrending. So watch this zone. Now it is a daily level, so it could be refined to a lower time frame, but I'd sync it to the daily bodies. So basically, if price action were to dip down below this on lower time frames, like this, you know that there will be an ETA by the end of a certain day. Let's say we come down here, right? All this would be a wick until eventually it would hopefully close back above this location. So whenever stuff like this happens, you have a timer, which is your daily candle close, right? So if you look at your daily candles, right, you can see that there's a timer right now for 11 hours and 35 minutes. When we dip down below there, you're gonna have to be aware of like when the daily candle is gonna close and what amount of time the asset has to try to recover back above that trend line. And so it's kind of helpful in getting you a guide in knowing how aggressive the asset needs to be in order to save itself from a loss of momentum. So that could have been really helpful during this period, right before it lifted off. And now we're using it more of a concrete level of support again. We have internal momentum that we could watch right here. We can zoom in on lower time frames, like the 15-minute for that. Right, got a very far deviation of the local value area. So we either want to prepare for consolidation or a reversal soon. It's gonna need to establish a new value area soon, or it's just gonna get overheated and we're gonna see a harsher correction. What does this percentage base move from here, where we confirmed the value area here as support? We got this break of structure, and from that moment to where we currently are, it's like 8%. So you would be been able to safely capture a trend-based move for about 8% so far. If we end up grabbing this high for a wallet connect and then we break this neckline, we get that change of character occurrence alongside with the loss of momentum, and we could fall back down. Treat this little regression trend here as a potential demand zone, at least right at the bottom of the zone here. So I'd mark that level as key area of interest, but if we lose that, then we're going to fall right back down to the value area high. It's around 67.81. That's all I got for you, man. So we could climb up, grab the liquidity from this local high here, if we do get that continuation and maintain this momentum. But I would be preparing for potential reversals soon, because you can't really prepare for any longs because the longs already came and went. Like there was a double bottom posture here you can jump in on. There's a confirmation of leaving the value area here. So you should be preparing mostly for shorts right now. But yeah, that's WCT. I hope that helps you out. Let's go to the next request. Does anyone know which portfolio tracker Kyle uses for tracking win percentage? I use Google Sheets, man. You don't need to pay for any fancy tools for tracking your portfolio or tracking your trades. Yeah, you can just use Google Sheets because you can customize it the way you want it on Google Sheets. But I am releasing a tool very, very, very soon called InvestiShare, and you'll be able to use that to track your win rate. It'll tell you what you'll owe in taxes based on your region, and it'll tell you your win rate. It'll tell you your profitability, give you an insight over your fees, like pretty much everything. And it's going to be constantly improving in the future as well. So I'll be releasing our own little journal, and it's going to be included in your membership, so you don't have to worry about paying anything for it. Can we look at ETH as well? Of course, yeah, we can look at ETH. I'm just trying to catch up to the requests right now. I'm trying to get them done in order. So vacation, I think, was the next request to look at Cubic and XMR. So let's pull it up. I don't think we have an XMR or Cubic. We have a Cubic chart. Let's pull up the Cubic chart. We looked at that yesterday. I don't remember if we put anything down. Okay, so yesterday we were talking about, was that yesterday? That was the 23rd. We were looking for a break of this momentum and a change of character currents here, but it looks like we never confirmed it. Instead, we built a double bottom back inside this valley area. Broke back out of the valley area here. We got a steep climb back up. Let me zoom out a bit. All right, okay, we're trying to get back inside a macro valley area. So this, I know it's kind of noisy right now, but I know where each one of these are coming from. This is a macro valley area that's about, how old is that again? That's got to be, we ranged in it for 137 days. Okay, so we need to get that acceptance back inside that valley area because we failed to get proper daily acceptance into it multiple times. So right now we're building a potential pennant for a continuation. We're fighting against the POC. It's a relatively strong point of control. They could induce a pullback to the valley area low again. You need to use lower time frames to be able to see what the crunch is going on there. Yeah, a little bit of awkward price action, but that's, Cubic is tough to actually trade. Yeah, we're getting a little bit of a squeeze. Oh, we're above the VWAP. That's one thing that's bullish about it right now. But yeah, we need to fight up back above this point of control. The measurable based target, if we're going for a conservative approach, be around 1570. Yeah, 1572 is where we can go, where we have about a 15-minute order block of confluence for potential exhaustion there, and hopefully we get a pullback from here. Nothing that I would trade, honestly, but it looks like it's trying to push for a continuation, and that could allow more structure for another continuation. We're starting to get closer to that 200 EMA again, and it's downtrending slowly, trying to catch up to the price. And that could eventually allow a cross between the 50 and the 200 for a golden cross to induce a pump from algorithmic buyers. But yeah, let's go back to the Bitcoin chart and let's see if we can find what's going on here. A slight pullback, but nothing crazy. Okay, Kyle, do you think Pyth can recover from the downtrend? Let's take a look. Pyth. Oh yeah, okay, that looks good. It looks like the last thing we were looking at for Pyth was a short. We had basically this uptrending momentum getting compressed against downtrending momentum here. One thing that's helpful for me, I don't know if you guys would find it helpful, but sometimes I like to set up a little triangle here to warn me of the key areas of interest where price action is getting squeezed. And if it's going in an uptrend, the probability of it reversing against the squeeze is higher because we're more likely adding liquidity to the downside and taking it from the upside. And then we had that, we lost the momentum. So that was one big warning sign to potentially get out any of your longs. Then we had the change of character, which is like the last straw kind of thing. And then from here, we ended up breaking the more macro uptrending momentum that was holding it up since 12 cents for about, oh, not very long, but 3 days before we ended up losing it. Then we got the break of structure, confirming it as resistance. And we've been on a downtrend ever since, right? So we pull this momentum down here. We can see as soon as that broke, we had a double bottom, a descending double bottom. So we grabbed any of the newly added liquidity from this low. We fractalized in the lower time frames. We had like a 5-minute double bottom structure right here. And then we got the 15-minute change of character right here. Right? Break a structure, strong high, came up, broke the strong high, and got the change of character. And then we've actually kind of stabilized ever since. So do I think that the downtrend will end? Yes. I think that we're actually really close to potentially confirming that it's going to end. And if we look at this valley area here that we were last in, right, we are getting acceptance. We got acceptance back inside this valley area here when we broke below this valley area high, the 50-day EMA. We get that break of structure, and that's when we got our acceptance right here into the valley area. So you'd have to trade it during this moment. If you were to jump in on a short, you'd be targeting the valley area low. And as soon as that broke, that'll be your warning sign to get out. So it looks like the posture right now is we're seeing signs of accumulation. And if you look at the lower time frames, we're kind of like building that Wyckoff accumulation structure. And it's inside of a potential larger double bottom. The measurable target of this smaller inverse head and shoulders is likely just going to bring us to our neckline again. And then if we have enough buy side liquidity, we could end up seeing it pump to the upside. But remember that buy side liquidity could also be used to sell big macro orders. So, and we have the 50 EMA kind of catching up to that neckline. So at this area, you typically would want to try to front run this, because trying to jump in on a continuation here could be relatively high risk unless you have the confidence of breaking the 50 EMA at the same time as breaking that neckline. So hopefully that kind of catches up and becomes sync with the neckline here. So you have that additional confidence for any continuations and longs. Now this is all hypothetical. We don't actually know that this will confirm as a double bottom, but if it were to, that would be your warning sign telling you that this, not only did it end the downtrend when we broke this momentum, but we would have a very strong reversal off of this, and we might be able to see the momentum drive it back up to these higher prices again. But we do have an area concern here and an area concern here. This will likely be mitigated during the time of confirmation for the double bottom neckline. We're likely we'll see a break of structure for that continuation because of that supply zone being right at the neckline there. So I don't see it being a quick pump up. I see it likely being a consolidation for a confirmation of continuation. But on the hourly right now, this is the inverse head and shoulders I was talking about. Now, if this were to confirm, the measurable base target would bring a move from Pyth from where we currently are, pretty much to where the 50 EMA is the momentum based target. So we'll see if we break past this neckline, because this will be the core barrier for that trade. So I hope that helps you out, man. We got a little bit of a squeeze. So if this doesn't confirm, then you can prepare for a drop back down to the valley area low. Zooming in lower time frames. Its positioning is kind of similar to Bitcoin. We get the structural potential, like not exactly a clean head and shoulders or anything like that. If anything, I would measure this as a double top. But key level right here that we need to have broken if you're preparing for a potential short. Got the VWAP in your face though, so I would be careful. Like, pick your battles, right? If you're looking at like 5 different assets and one of them doesn't have the VWAP right in your face, I would pick the one that doesn't have the VWAP in your face, right? Using the VWAP as confluence is pretty awesome, honestly. Like if you look at this example here, on this double bottom here, when we broke the double bottom, we also got above the VWAP simultaneously. So that would have been a form of confluence for your trade that you could have used for that long there. And same kind of scenario. We kind of wish that this would catch up, so you'd have the confluence of breaking that at the same time you'd want to jump in on this. Because when you jump in on this short, there's a lot of barriers. It's not just the VWAP. You have to worry about the potential residual buy orders here. And if that doesn't hold, then you can start targeting these value area lows again. But I'm more hopeful for the bullish scenario for you, if you're a holder of this asset at least. I hope that helps you out. So that's Pyth. Let's go to the Bitcoin chart again, see how it's developed. Okay. So it looks like we're starting to fail to create that higher high. We might get a low time frame internal change of character like right here, which could lead to the break of the momentum. Let's see. I want to look at the order books again, see how it's developing. Yeah, sell wall still there. So that hasn't moved. Now there's a good tool called Bookmap that will show you sell walls and when they were added, how long they were there for, and stuff like that, so you have a better idea if it's going to be a non-intentional fill. So if you ever hear like NTIF is basically, or NI, yeah, I forgot the abbreviation. Non-intentional fill. If you ever hear about non-intentional fill, that basically just means that there are potential traders out there trying to manipulate the price, usually market makers, and they will pull their orders right before it gets filled, to kind of like rug you of thinking of that wall as a form of security. So that's one thing you have to worry about. But Bookmap, if you use a tool like that, and you see that it's been there for a long period of time, then the chances of that happening is a lot lower. But if you see a wall that constantly getting lifted and re-added, lifted and re-added, it's hard to trust. Okay, let's look at Ethereum as the next request, I believe. So Python. Try to catch up to the chat here. Yeah, let's take a look at Ethereum and Solana. Bitcoin looks like we're about to get that loss of momentum. Low time frame, change of character. That could potentially be a front run to this break, but then you would have to worry about this being a barrier if you decide to jump in on that change of character occurrence. Some Fibonacci traders might have jumped in already. And from this high to this low, it's like usually a key area of interest for potential developing head and shoulders. The right shoulder is usually a test to like a golden pocket level, but all right, we just got it. And 2 minutes left on that candle. If we're going to be aggressively dropping, I'm hoping that we get a little bit of a bounce at least, so we have more of a structural guard for the short that we're kind of potentially preparing for. I'm going to pull up my short position tool so we can prepare our risk. We got no 1 to 3. Okay. So if you're risking to lose, if you think of your stop loss as a budget and you want to stick to that budget consistently as you possibly can. The more consistent you are with your risk, the faster you will scale in this space. I promise you. 1 to 3, you'll be risking to lose $100 to gain $300, for example, or $1 to gain $3. The volume's starting to pick up. Got about a minute left. What's a 15-minute structure look like? Golfing, okay. So a break of this low would be a change of character on multiple time frames. So we just mitigated an order block just now. Spoofing NIF is illegal in regulated markets. Is it? I wouldn't. That'd be a weird thing to make illegal. Maybe in the stock market. That's probably why I haven't heard of that before. That'd be like the equivalent to you putting a limit order in and then canceling it. That's why I think it's kind of weird that would be regulated. And just because you have bigger money, you shouldn't be penalized for that. All right, we got the close. We lost momentum. The 5 minute. I have the alarm set here. So another 5 minutes before I would want to think about jumping in anyways. No matter how this candle develops, I want to make sure it closes below this level and not just like taps it. Okay, so let's pull up the next request. I think it was Ethereum. ETH. Looked at it yesterday. We're on the hourly time frame with this right now. Yesterday we were also preparing for the short right here against the point control rejection that we were kind of like anticipating. And this was our local support that we were concerned about right here. And so we got the break. Let's zoom in to lower time frames, see how this behaved, because I didn't jump in on this one. Okay, so if you jumped in on this one and you used this local high as your stop loss guards, which is roughly where I would likely put my stop loss if this were to confirm, it would have been stopped out like shortly after. We had a decent drive down, but we got a front run to our local support, came up, built another head and shoulders on like the 5 minute, and then came down, hit that local support concern that we were talking about yesterday, and then drove our price right back up. Trading on holidays, that's what that looks like right there. Plus trading inside of a terminal value area. This is one of those things that I really don't like doing, is trading inside the valley area unless there's a lot of confluence. We got uptrending momentum here. We're at a value high. Let's update the fixed range volume profile here to the moment we got out. So here we'll be preparing for structure to define a potential short. We've got a little bit of a regression trend right here. But yeah, right now we just need to wait for more structure. Because right now our key level is way down here. Oh yeah, I've been preparing further shorts for Ethereum. Just right now, we just need to wait more time for it to paint the picture for us. I like its positioning compared to Bitcoin. So if I were to pick an asset that I would want to trade right now, structurally, Bitcoin looks more like we got more structure to actually define our shorts. Like Ethereum doesn't really have that much structure to define a short other than this low here. But Ethereum's positioning is more bearish than Bitcoin's. So we might get a better R&R scenario here. But Ethereum does look a little bit more guarded in the sense of, like, if you're going to be targeting its value area low, you'd have to be worried about this key level here along the way down, whereas Bitcoin, it looks a lot weaker to its value area low. And my horizontal rays are constantly being moved. Yeah, ever since that bug, like 5 months ago, 4 or 5 months ago, and TradingView hasn't fixed it yet. Okay. Dave wants to look at ZBCN. I think you got some killer trades on that one, man. ZBCN, Zebec Network. What we were looking at last time here. Or where were we looking at it? Oh yeah, the long scenario. And a couple internal shorts. So we're actually, I think we're also hoping for, yeah, there's an SFP here that we're looking for here as well. So congrats if you took the SFP, that would have been great. We had an area of concern here that if broken, we could end up leading down to lower levels. Oh yeah, I have this area circled, so that'll be our big key area of concern. And we had local support here drawn as well, and we ended up holding that off. We broke momentum. That's a big warning sign to get out of any shorts if you're in any. And then ever since, we kind of been in an uptrend. Yeah. And now look at this thing go, man. We just had a squeeze right here. Right? We had the squeeze to the upside, the downside here. The pace of the buyers and sellers were kind of like, came to an apex point. We lost the VWAP, lost the momentum, and then we had that break of structure. This is the confirmation, like right here, that we're losing this level and we're likely to go down. I would have been very mindful of watching out like around here. It looks like we broke right through it. Now we're using it as resistance. We have a local value area here that we should pull. Yeah, we're basically got a bounce off that previous point of control right here. So if we get a close below this key level here, we'd get another break of structure for a potential continuation in confluence with losing that point of control for support, and likely get a rotation down to the value area low. So I don't think that the drop here for ZBC is over. Maybe we'll grab that liquidity and then come up here and get a change of character to recover from that. But just be mindful that if we get that full body close below this level, that form price acceptance will very likely drive it down to this value area low right here. But it's a relatively decent value area. Let me just pull up this for a second. I just want to see the strength of these value areas here. Yeah, so this is a relatively decent value area here. So this should hold it for a potential range extension. Let's go back to normal candles. So we get down here. Value area low. I would anticipate this to act as a form of support. And then maybe we'll go range bound between here and here for a little bit, allowing potential continuation for CBCN. But yeah, based on this chart, 100% of people are in a profit right now. So we need consolidation if you want a chance of a reversal. Like the daily, you don't want it to close like it currently is formed right now because we have an engulfing candle response. So if we get that proper acceptance below that break of structure I was talking to you about, and we drive down to the value area low, then that's a big top signal. And hopefully we range to keep it stabilized. But if not, we could start a downtrend. Bitcoin, what are you doing, man? Chilling a little bit. Nothing more I hate than all these bullish thumbnails across the board on YouTube. You mean like the giant mouth opening ones where they're just screaming at their mic or at the chart or something like that? Well, just because the Bitcoin price is high, it doesn't mean you should be buying right now, right? Everyone, that's a retail FOMO problem where like they see a new all-time high, they think it's the best time to buy, and it's honestly it's the worst. It's when you should be preparing for your exiting your positions. Like it may take a while to confirm to exit your position when we get a new all-time high, but it shouldn't be the time you're thinking about buying. You should have already bought, kind of thing. What's our stop loss guard here? Well, here right now, we're looking at this local high here for our stop loss guard. When this breaks, and we can use that as our guard. I would prefer still us to have a little bit of bounce. We're getting it now, getting a little bit of bounce here so we can have more of a structural guard too. But I wouldn't be using that as my stop loss. Like this is still a 1 to 3 if we're confirmed, depending on how the candle closes, of course. Like if the candle closed here, then great, right? But if it closes like here, then it could eat our R&R. But we'll still be roughly around 1 to 2 here. So yeah, right above the shoulder, it's at 109.9 basically. That sell wall is still there. We got a couple of undercuts to that sell walls too. Yeah, still the same amount, roughly 420. Okay, virtual was the other request. We looked at virtual yesterday, but I forgot what we spoke about. Virtuals, what are we doing? We were looking at a short too yesterday. Being mindful of the value area high. That would have played out relatively well. So we want a candle close below this level here. We got the candle close right here and below the VWAP, so good confluence. Your stop loss guard would have been probably roughly around here. Maybe here if you're feeling risky. Had a bit of it pulled back against us a little bit, but then ultimately it would have hit where you were targeting. And then we had a wild price action shortly afterwards. We broke momentum, right? We came up, broke that momentum, retested, got the higher high, break of structure, confirming a likely rotation back up to these highs. But we didn't just get back up to these highs, we kind of soared out. So we had not just a bias of a short because of its value area structure, but also because we're kind of getting squeezed to prepare for a potential break to the downside. Because the bias of these structures are bearish because it adds liquidity to the downside, but takes it from the upside. So it's awkward seeing it break to the upside whenever it happens. It's common, like it happens, but it's less common, right? It's like a 65% chance of it going to the downside. So seeing it break to the upside, it always kind of throws me off, but you still always have to be mentally prepared for stuff like that. So we just use this value area as support here. You notice how like here, whenever we get to these value area highs and you don't get that break of structure, we get these like violent moves, usually to the upside. It's unsustainable. We get acceptance in the value area, then we rotate back down, right? Whereas here we came up, retested it, and then got the higher high. That's a trend-based rule. So if you're a trend trader, you can use value areas to define when we're about to trend. And this is one of those trend-based rules where if you get that break of structure off of the value area, it tells you you're going to be leaving that value area and going to a previous one, or going to, if you're in price discovery, you'll be creating a new one. So where we're currently standing with virtual, you have to look left and look for key areas of interest that could act as barriers along the way. I'll personally be marking this level. We want to wrap around that wick with this supply concern. Template, where are we? I mark this level here. On 265, if we climb our way up there, I'll be watching for a potential reversal. We have no structure to go off of to define a good short or anything like that. Other than like the 5 minute, we could see we have a little bit of a impulse move, base, another impulse move. So we have a demand zone here. So if we broke this low, we would likely come back to that demand zone and establish a range here. So that's what I'll be watching out for. And the low time frames for virtual. If not, we'll likely just keep going up. But yeah, this is a key area right now that you'd watch if you're anticipating it for it to reverse. But again, watch this zone. Whenever you're waiting for a change of character, look for a little demand zone like this, because it could save you from, it keeps you grounded from having ridiculous targets. Okay, so that's virtual. Congrats to anyone who took that short. That was a pretty transparent, easy short. Okay, double bottom on Suie, question mark from Jeff. Let's take a look. Suie might have some relative strength and pump while Bitcoin's dropping. Oh, I see. You're looking at more macro. What did we talk about yesterday with Suie? We don't have any orange lines down. So we weren't looking at anything. So we had the downturning momentum drawn yesterday. Looks like we double bottomed off of the value area low. We had a opportunity, yeah, we had a break of structure, pull back, yeah, pull back and then break of structure. A pretty violent one. And we grabbed all the liquidity from below these lows. Yeah, lots of good bullish confluence here. So at the value area low, grab liquidity grab, double bottom structure, break of momentum. Got above the VWAP with the double bottom. And you target these highs here. So we're at any measurable target that I would have, if I jumped in on any longs down here, this is where I'll be preparing to exit my position. We could get an SFP off these highs in confluence with the point of control that's in this previous value area here. Right, so watch that point of control key level there. Oh, did we just do that? I'm going to take a look. Just get your magnet tool out. SFP wick right here. SFP wick right here. All right, so we got our 2 wicks marked. This is more of a legacy SFP. Get our body marked. Let's mark our local body actually. Right here. So we basically got an equal high to that. So I don't feel comfortable shorting that. So I would wait for a local SFP off of this liquidity. So we come up, we grab that liquidity and close back inside of our range. Then I jump in on a short and I target my local lows. We don't have a very established range here. If we had an established range here, I'll be looking at its lows and using it as a potential target for an SFP. Traditionally that's how you should be focusing on your SFPs. Watch your local lows as your core barrier after the liquidity has been grabbed. And if we break that core barrier, then you have a continuation down. So I think that this needs more time to establish more price action, but this is a good spot to prepare for a potential like short scalp. If that fails, we don't get the SFP. Well, we might get the SFP and still have acceptance in this valley area, right? Then bounce and come up, get the higher high, and then rotate to its valley area high from here. But I can see the double bottom that you're seeing, man. Macro-wise, this is a really important key level for Suie to hopefully reverse. If we zoom out on, let's go with a 4 hour. We are basically dancing inside this previous valley area here, right? We used the valley area high and the previous valley area low here as a form of support right here. We've been respecting this valley area almost perfectly, using the valley area high and valley area low as support and resistance. But this double bottom could allow us to get back up into this valley area again for Suie. So if we break this valley area high and use this neckline as support, then we can get that rotation up. And if we get acceptance into this valley area, then you can start targeting as high as like $4.03. So it's this could be the start of a domino effect. And this down here would have been a front run to that right here. So that's what I'm looking for with Suie, man. A little awkward to trade, but the SFP will be easy mode. It's the waiting for a break of structure for a continuation off of a point of control near our neckline like this. That's where it gets a little ugly and awkward. So you'd want to be focusing on front run opportunities like any pullbacks, internal changes to characters, and watching these barriers along the way and try to front run it so it's less risk trading near point of control like that. This is an awkward one. I hope that helps you out, man. Bitcoin, it's got a little bit of pullback. We were kind of hoping for it anyways, but if we get the higher high, all we got was a potential better opportunity for a short, right? Rather than accepting what we got. Okay. John Foster Crypto. What's up, man? You got 92 people watching. You got quite a bit. Where on CoinGlass do you find the order book data? Well, Matthew, let me tell you about that. You can't really find it in the navigation menu. So it's best to just save the link. What I'll do is I'll hop over to... Actually, if Moo Juice, can you send that to him in the chat there? I'll give it to you in the DMs. There we go. I think you already have the link. But yeah, Matthew, I'll send you. Moo Juice is going to send you the link in a moment. Solana and Unify. Okay, Unfee, sorry. That wall has gotten bigger. Right here. So we still have that sell wall at the Valerie high that could induce a reversal. We might fail to confirm this as a head and shoulder structure off the POC down to the very low. Let's pull up Solana. I do have to head out soon, guys. I have a call with the community in about 20 minutes. Okay, so Solana, we were talking about preparing for an SFP. I think it was a 15-minute. Yeah, 15-minute SFP. And we got one. We didn't grab the liquidity that we wanted to have grabbed. But we did do an SFP. So here, we zoom in for all those peeps that are new, trying to figure out what an SFP is. Here is the bodies that you'd mark, right? We were marking this body right here. So if we came up and grabbed this liquidity, and that same candle that grabbed liquidity closed back below inside the range, that would be an SFP that you could short, and you target this low, right? But instead, like we had a SFP here, we added liquidity here, then we had it taken, came down, hit that target, and then again came back up. Grab the local liquidity right here that was just added, confirmed, and again hit the target. But this time around, we didn't just hit the target, we got the price acceptance that we wanted below this key level. And when we got that price acceptance, price drove down towards our target. We were focusing on, we were hoping for a value area low, but we were looking at this, the POC level alongside with a order block, alongside with the 618786 Fibonacci zone. The Fibonacci pull came from this low to this high, and it gave us this area of interest. We got a bounce off of that. We broke momentum right here. We got an ascending double bottom, support off the VWAP, and we kind of had a relatively steep momentum along our way back up. So I would be keeping, we can delete this. We don't need this anymore. That was for our short. But I would be keeping all of this still here, except I would mark, if it's control, click, drag, I would mark this wick right here as well, because we might SFP again in confluence with the loss of momentum. So keep these levels on your chart in case we get another SFP around 179.02 or 179 or 178.80. But yeah, if you're looking for more of a structural short, we'd probably invalidate the SFPs and build structure here to potentially give us a reversal again. So my goggles are bearish today for Solana and Bitcoin. Oh, Bitcoin just soared right through that sell wall. Okay, so now we can get a better established range above this area. And this is why you wait for your confirmations, guys, right? You wait for your confirmations so you don't jump in on a short just because you're preparing for it. So delete that. This is still technically our key level. So we can't really rotate this back up until we get more structure. We can delete this. The sell wall has been obliterated. Let's refresh the, I want to see the 24-hour heat map. We got some liquidity up here that we can grab. So 110.338. All right, we're grabbing that now on the Bitstamp chart. Look over here to our left. Let's mark this wick here. It's pretty aggressive. So if we do get that SFP off this high, if we need to establish a little bit of range here in order for us to even safely trade it. Aggressive gap here. All right, we grabbed it. Let's see what happens. We got a minute and 45 seconds. Yeah, we might just go and ape our way to the previous value area here. Like if we get acceptance in this value area, man, we can get a new all-time high very shortly afterwards. Because the moment you get acceptance in this value area is when you can start targeting the value area high again, and be mindful of the POC, because this POC is actually fairly decently strong. It's like 111.534. Everyone's waking up after the holidays. Andrew's saying Solana heat map now is all clear until 48 hour at around 179.85. What does Solana look like? Bitcoin's gonna be the faster mover, like it has been lately. Its dominance is really strong right now. So if Solana wants to slow climb its way up, and we could get that SFP opportunity. But yeah, we have a confluence here at the previous value area low with an hourly order block kind of like flush with it. So if we do manage to climb our way up, that's going to be an area of interest for a potential short or rejection. Grab liquidity, closing back below that level, but we can't take action on that. Wild. It's an interesting move. Not very sustainable. I could see that coming right back down. At least to the value area low. I mean value area high, sorry. Wants to keep it in the right spot. What was the... We looked at Ethereum, right? Yeah, we looked at Ethereum. I just want to make sure I'm not missing anything. Just jumped in long on grass. Oh, did you? Yeah, we can take a look, man. So you have a long on grass at 230, looking to take profit at 248. What do you think? Let's see. I don't know if I looked at grass before. It sounds familiar, so I think I did. We'll look at it on Bybit's chart. Okay, I have looked at it before. Where's... a while ago, I guess. Okay. Oh, we just got a newly established moving average on grass. Though it's young, it just got its first 200 EMA right here. And these shorts, I was looking at shorts, I guess. Or maybe potential longs. It was a while ago. It was about in January that I was looking at it. I don't need to look at that stuff, but here to here. Okay, yeah. Lost momentum here. More of a macro momentum. Just adjust this. Here, so the pace of the seller is more of a macro state right here. We broke past it here, using it as support. We are building a little bit of a regression trend up. We got this uptrending momentum here. So this is the daily momentum. Let's zoom in on grass. So you said you jumped in at... Hey, Alex from Crypto's here. What's up, man? So, let's see. Where was that? You jumped in at 230, looking to take profit at 248. So let's see what we got. So you jumped in at 230. So let's mark a horizontal line and see if we can find your reasoning for jumping in. So 230. So you probably got in from these lows previously. This is not an older order. This is a younger one. And so you're targeting at 248. So we have this downtrending momentum here that we broke. So I could see. Okay, I can see your reasoning for jumping in. Good job, honestly, man. One thing I'd be concerned about is how it's reacting to the previous day VWAP and the supply concern here, right? So it's starting to climb its way back up. So what you want to hope for is a close above this level, not just a candle wicking above here, but closing above this level for price acceptance. So we can get an increased probability chance of rotating at least back up to this supply concern here. So you said you're targeting 248. Like I'd be thinking about like around 245 area if we get that price acceptance above this level. But this is a big barrier of concern. If we SFP here, I would listen to that and potentially take some profits. But your stop loss could basically be like the moment that happens, your stop loss could be at break even right here. So you did a good job, man. It's great long. If I were to pick a candle where I thought you might have entered, it would probably be this one right here. This is the 15-minute time frame. It feels safer if you jumped in a little bit later at 232. But yeah. Good job, man. And we're getting close to pumping it up. Yeah, just need to have that candle close and you're set. So just watch out for a potential SFP here. So if price action were to come up above these bodies on the 15-minute, which it currently is right now as we speak, and we grabbed liquidity from this wick, and we swept that liquidity and then closed back inside the range, then I'd be taking some off the table for sure, because that SFP could drive the price. This spot right here would be under attack the moment something like that would happen. So just be very, very mindful of that potential SFP. So you want this body to close above this body. Even better if it closed above the wick. Because if we close above the body, we can still technically have a local SFP. Yeah, good job, man. Bitcoin's tapping the previous value area low. Savage. Don't know why my horizontal rays keep moving. Do we have a potential Bitcoin breakout trade setup? Not safe one. No, we don't have a safe one. I think the safer plays, if they were confirmed, are the short side right now. Any chance for like a breakout? What we'd want to see is positioning here for like a pullback and a higher high for a potential breakout trade. But we have a lot of confluence for a barrier here. So I'm trying to hold back some hiccups. But yeah, we got a confluence here for resistance. We have the previous value area low. We have a supply concern. We have an order block on the hourly order block here. So lots of reasoning to get rejected here. So I'll be preparing for more structure to define for a short, potentially target the value area low, or more structure to define for a continuation. But nothing I would touch right now for a long. Trump media announces approximately $2.5 billion US Bitcoin treasury deal. Oh, nice. Hype. We got a hype request. We were talking about hype yesterday. Hyperliquid's DEX. If anyone here is new to crypto and you really want to go down a rabbit hole, I'd recommend looking into decentralized exchanges. Now, Hyperliquid's a really good one for that too. And so we're just going crazy on hype. We were looking at last time here a potential short. Looks like we're looking for an SFP too. We never got the SFP, unfortunately. And the change of character occurrence that happened here trigger a potential short. Oh, that wick. Yeah, you wouldn't want to jump in on this short anyways with that wick like that. Your R&R wouldn't have been worth it. We maintained, they've got this like awkward descending channel right here. We broke out of the value area, high, pullback. We honored it as a form of support. And that would have been a trend-based setup right here. And now we're building a regression trend, which these typically break to the downside. We got above a previous high right here. Internally right now we are bullish. Broke this inverse head and shoulders, Wyckoff accumulation structure, SFP opportunity. Let me target these highs again at $40. $40, man. It's crazy how much this thing's grown. Like saying these prices for Hyperliquid's nuts. Like, was it yesterday? Yesterday we were at, well, it was the 20th. Okay, the 20th we were at $27. So like it's like a week ago we were at half the market cap almost. But yeah, right now I would be saying that Hyperliquid's very likely going to rotate back up to around $40. These highs here. It's wild. If we get the higher high, then down here would be a key level for the regression trend break. There might be a front run opportunity up here, but right here would potentially become a key level for a rotation back down to $32 if this were to break. A little demand zone here too at 33.72. But if you were jumped in on this, your stop loss guard, 2 candle pullback here on the 15 minutes. You can use a little bit of breathing room using the VWAP as a potential guard for your capital. What would your R&R be on something like that? If you just jumped in on that, that'd be 1 to 2. So you can double your risk. And this is the bull flag you're talking about, this little descending channel. Yeah, the inverse head and shoulders one clear reversal warning. The SFP is down here too. All right, cool. Well, congrats on that. That's pretty cool. Let's go to Bitcoin again. And we're getting the rejection off that value high still. Got a little bit of a negative doji response. It's not a tweezer reaction, but it's pretty close. If this engulfed, then I would say we'd be already back down here. Hyperliquid, Scott saying he was tracking the whale on there. Yeah, we were talking about that whale yesterday too. Ridiculous. Yeah, crazy amount of money. Yeah, someone up with 0.45% of their position, their unrealized gains is 3.65 million. Someone's down on their short 6.73 million. So if you think you're having a bad day, this guy's having a bad day. 10x cross. Look, Jesus, guys. I hate cross margin. So this is their volume. So looking for the most savage person in here. So cross margin, this means that these people are risking not just what's in their trade, they're risking to lose their entire account. If their stop loss is not honored in cross margin, their entire account's at risk. And so I never, ever, ever recommend cross margin to anybody unless they know how to control the amount of funds appropriately in that account. So rather than using isolated to isolate the amount of margin in your trade, you can put the funds in the account that you want to isolate to dedicate to your cross trade to control your, unfortunately, this is not good talk. You shouldn't be saying words like to control your liquidation price, because the main thing you should be focusing on is your stop loss, not your liquidation. So if you ever hear someone talking to you as a trader and they're talking to you about their liquidation price, then you know that they're very likely not trading with a stop loss. Or they're really smart. It's either they're really, I don't want to say dumb, they could just be new to risk management. But you can also be like, you can use cross in a hyper intelligent way where you can use your liquidation as a stop loss, but you are basically making sure that you are consistent with your risk, your budget, in a different format setting, basically. So let's say, for example, you are in on this. Let's say you jumped in on this like long or something like that here, right? You can, rather than have your stop loss like here, you could control your margin and your cross leverage, or even your isolated, in a way where you get liquidated there instead. But then you'd have to deal with liquidation fees and all that stuff. So it's a different form of safety net, because if your stop loss isn't honored, you can then just control your risk in a way where you get liquidated, so you can't get screwed over in the event where your stop loss isn't honored. If that makes sense. Because sometimes what could happen is you can have your stop loss here, and then during a high volume like slippage event, rather than your stop loss closing you here, it could close you somewhere down here. And that's happened to me like at least half a dozen times in my trading career. So I was thinking about doing stuff like this, but when it comes to like giving signals, when I give signals to like hundreds of people, like I don't want to encourage that kind of behavior. Okay, so is there any other questions? We have Unfee. Oh, I gotta go, guys. I got a call with the community that started like a minute ago. So anyone's a part of the community, I'll be sending you guys a link in a moment, and I'll see you inside the call there. I'm sorry about anyone who's watching, but I'll see you guys tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. Eastern. And yeah, stay safe, stay profitable. Again, focusing on shorts, looking for shorts here. We got a rejection potentially off a previous value low. We have an hourly order block in there for a confluence for a potential rejection. So we just need to define more structure here, and then we can use the change of character as our key level of interest for a potential short. Right now, our change of character currents is way down here, so we just need a little bit more established structure. Pull back, a little bit of a higher high, then come down for a potential change of character occurrence for the confluence of acceptance in this value area, so we can get a potential rotation back down again. All right, cool guys. You have a great day. Thanks for watching.